everyone, it's Susan Anderhagen, founder of the Anderhagen Group and xfactorleader.com. Today I'd like to speak about the very important skill that leaders have in taking people on a journey with their vision. So today I'd like to take each of you on a journey with me. Imagine that we all live in London. And imagine we all live in London and we're all men. Now for the men this should be pretty easy. For the women, don't worry, it's not going to be for too long. We all live in London, we're all men, and it's the year 1914. Some of us are Royal Navy veterans, some are recent Cambridge graduates, some are cooks, carpenters, storekeepers, some may even work, or better yet live, in Downton Abbey. World War I has not yet begun. Broadcast radio hasn't been invented yet. And so we all get our news from the newspaper. One morning you're reading the newspaper and you see this ad. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. How many of you would answer this ad? Why would anyone answer this ad? What kind of leader would put this ad in the paper and expect people to follow him? But would you be surprised to know that 5,000 people responded to the ad? If you look at the skill of taking people on a journey and a vision, there are 3 important criteria. The first one is that the journey must be challenging. And if you look at this ad, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, certainly sounds challenging. Characteristic number 2 is that it needs to be bigger than you are or take a team to complete. And this ad is looking for men for a journey, not a man for a journey. Criteria number 3 is a picture of better than you are today if you achieve it. And this ad says, honor and recognition in case of success. Of the 5,000 men who replied to this ad, 27 men joined Ernest Shackleton on his quest to walk across the Antarctic. Now they set sail in August of 1914, and they had waited until August because they wanted to have the least amount of ice out in the Antarctic. Unfortunately, even after all that planning, after 3 days, the ship started encountering ice. They smashed through the ice for 6 weeks, and finally the ship got stuck in the ice. Now the men were trying to get the ship out with crowbars and with chisels, but they couldn't get it released. The ship's storekeeper wrote that it was like trying to break out pieces of almond out of toffee. And at this point the ship was kind of moving with the ice flow. Now they realized they needed to wait until spring, but they knew that in the spring one of 2 things would happen. Either the ice would start to melt and the ship would be released, or the ice would start to move and would crush the ship in the strength of the ice. And unfortunately, that's what happened. In the spring of 1915, the ship got crushed by the ice, and the men had to move all of their provisions off the ship and onto the ice. Now at this point in time, without a ship, Ernest Shackleton set a new vision: to save every life. Challenging to achieve? Yes. Needs teamwork to achieve? Definitely. And a picture of better than you are today, if you achieve it? Certainly, because the alternative was sure death for these 28 men. They spent many months living on the ice. As a matter of fact, they called the camp the Patience Camp. They were kind of shifting with the ice flow, and they saw an island off in the distance. And at this point, the ice had started to melt again. They got in their lifeboats and they started rowing for this deserted island. And it took them 4 days to arrive on Elephant Island. Now this was a deserted island in the Antarctic, so don't picture palm trees or Gilligan's Island. This is a remote island. They were burning blubber to keep warm, and Ernest Shackleton realized that they couldn't just stay there. There were no ships passing by there. He had to do something to save every life. And so he took 5 of the men on one of the lifeboats and decided to try and reach South Georgia Island, which is where they had set sail from to begin with, because there were whaling stations there. They estimated that it would take 1 month to get there. They hit very rough seas. Ernest Shackleton described the seas as the biggest waves he had seen in 26 years on the ocean. He described the ocean as a seething chaos of tortured water. The men had to bail out the lifeboats for their lives. Landing wasn't easy. The edge of South Georgia Island was just sheer cliffs and rocks, and they had to take an entire 24 hours to even find a place to land. And by that point in time, this little lifeboat had really been battered. It took them 17 days to reach there, less than the 1 month that they had estimated. But once they got themselves together, they realized that they were on the opposite side of the island than the whaling stations. There were no people here. And it turns out, as the crow flies, it was 22 miles to the whaling station, but it was up over treacherous mountains and glaciers to get there. So Ernest Shackleton took 2 of the 5 men to climb over the mountains and left 3 of the men on this side of the island. They took the screws out of the lifeboats and put them through the bottoms of the soles of their shoes so they would have some traction. And they climbed over the mountain and the glaciers. It took them 36 hours, but they finally reached people on the other side of South Georgia Island. But he had promised to save every life. He had 3 men on the opposite side of this island and 22 men back on deserted Elephant Island. So he sent a boat around to save his men on this island, and he borrowed a ship to go back to Elephant Island. It took him 3 months to get there. It had only taken 17 days on the way from Elephant Island to South Georgia Island. But when they made it to the island, he looked on the island, counted the men, and saw that all 22 were there and alive. He had managed to save every life. Ernest Shackleton's success of saving all of his men has been written about over and over as one of the greatest examples of leadership of all time. So I ask each of you to think about the next time you are creating a vision and a journey with your teams. Think about, have you created one that's challenging to achieve, takes teamwork to achieve, and a picture of better than you are today when you achieve it? The next time that you are doing something with your team and you're thinking about the vision and journey, think about Ernest Shackleton and the determination and drive that helped he and his team get to safety. It's important. Leadership is always taking people on a journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day.